we know how to multiply fractions or divide by a fraction. To multiply fractions, we multiply the numerators and the denominators. To divide by a fraction, we multiply by the reciprocal, and then we can just multiply the numerators and the denominators. The same applies to rational expressions. So here's the strategy when we are multiplying or dividing rational expressions. Factor the numerators and the denominators completely. Perform the operation, multiplying or dividing, and simplify the result. Let us illustrate this with the examples on page 43. So question 1, simplify the following rational expressions. Okay, we start by factoring all the numerators and denominators involved. X squared plus x, we factor out the greatest common factor of all terms. We have an x squared and an x, the greatest common factor is x, so we factor out x and are left with x plus 1. X squared minus 1, this is a difference of two squares. So we rewrite it as x squared minus 1 squared, and then we can use our formula to factor as x minus 1 times x plus 1. X is already in factored form. X plus 2 is also already factored. For x squared plus x minus 2, our method says that we are looking for two numbers whose sum is 1 and whose product is negative 2. We see that those two numbers are 2 and negative 1. 2 plus negative 1 is 1, and 2 times negative 1 is negative 2. So we can immediately factor as x plus 2 times x minus 1. Now we perform the multiplications. So here was the given expression. We replace the numerators and denominators by their factored forms. Now we can multiply the numerators and the denominators. And finally we cancel out any common terms. We see that there is a factor x plus 1 in common, and a factor x plus 2 in common, and another factor x minus 1 in common. And we are left with x squared over 1, which simplifies to x squared, which is our final answer. Question 2. Simplify the following division. We start by factoring all the numerators and denominators involved. 3x squared minus 5x plus 2, this is the AC method. We are looking for two numbers whose sum is negative 5 and whose product is 3 times 2, which is 6. We see that negative 3 and negative 2 work. Negative 3 plus negative 2 is negative 5, and negative 3 times negative 2 is 6. So we need to split the term negative 5x. Since our numbers are negative 3 and negative 2, we split negative 5x as negative 3x minus 2x. Next we split this 4 term into groups. Since our third term contains a negative sign, we factor out a negative sign out of the second group. We have 3x squared minus 3x minus 2x minus 2. Next we factor the greatest common factor out of each group. For the first group we have 3x squared and 3x. The greatest common factor is 3x. We factor out 3x and are left with x minus 1. For the second group we have 2x and 2. The greatest common factor is 2. We factor out 2 and are left with x minus 1. Next we factor out the common binomial x minus 1, and we are left with 3x minus 2, which is the factorization of that numerator. Next we look at 2x squared plus 3x plus 1. Again, this is the AC method. We are looking for two numbers whose sum is 3 and whose product is 2 times 1, which is 2. We see that 1 and 2 work. 1 plus 2 is 3, and 1 times 2 is 2. so we have to split the term 3x. Since our numbers are 1 and 2, we rewrite 3x as x plus 2x. Next, we split the 4 term into 2 groups. Now we factor out the greatest common factor out of each group. For the first group, we have 2x squared and x. The greatest common factor is x. When we factor out x, we are left with 2x plus 1. The second group has 2x and 1 in it. The greatest common factor is 1, so we do not factor out anything. Now we factor out the common binomial 2x plus 1 and are left with x plus 1, which is the factorization of our denominator. Next we have x minus 1, which is already factored. And finally x squared plus x, we factor out the greatest common factor. We have an x squared and an x, the greatest common factor is x. When we factor out x, we are left with x plus 1. Now we can perform the division. So here was the given division. To divide by a fraction, we multiply by the reciprocal. To multiply two fractions, we multiply the numerators and the denominators. Now we can replace the all the factors with their factored form and cancel out any common factors. We see that there is an x minus 1 in common and an x plus 1 in common. And so we are left with 3x minus 2 times x over 2x plus 1, which is our final answer.